Hello to you. I really hope I find you well. Welcome back to the channel here with me, Jenny Kirk. And today it's finally here, the update video on Weir Yard up in the loft. What have I been up to? Well, actually, I've been really pleased with the Wall World Scenic static grass applicators that they've been sending over, and specifically the Precision Detail applicator. I've been playing about with this along with a few other scenic areas up here, and I thought I'd share with you my findings with the static grass applicator. As always, we've got a link down below if you want to go and find your own version of these if you really like what you see in the video. Also, don't forget that today's sponsor is Train-O-Matic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories. But without further ado, enough about me yabbering. Let's get on and see what I've been up to here on Weir Yard. One of the areas that I've been really trying to improve is around the top of the hump on the marshalling yard area of Weir Yard. Now, as my skills have improved, so I've looked back at some of the previous scenic work I've done and felt that it wasn't really up to par. One of the things that I did have was an old Pico Wonderful Wagon kit in 00. This probably dates back to 1970s, I'm guessing. I repainted it, weathered it, and then removed most of the chassis. I felt that actually this wagon would make a really good grounded van body, being that it didn't really quite live up to the standard of modern ready-to-run wagons. So what I've done is I've bedded it into the ground without its chassis, and then I've used some of the underbrush from the Woodland Scenics range to build up and make it look very, very overgrown. And this is actually a good way of not only suggesting something that's been unkempt and left for a great many years, if not decades, but also to hide the deficiencies of the model that's underneath. In real life, things did get very overgrown, and you can quite imagine some kind of bush growing up the side and onto the roof and just generally disguising it. I always think that decay and neglect works incredibly well in model form, giving visual interest, but also giving quite a challenge to modelling, which can be really quite pleasurable to do as a result. I've also added a telegraph pole from stuff that was salvaged from Trinity Road out in the shed, and some other bushes in place. Now, one of the areas that has consistently disappointed me is the grass here. I laid this before I got into static grass applicators, and you can see underneath that extra addition of bushes and stuff, it does look a bit flat. It's also the case that woodland floor detritus looks plonked on top. And I'm going to try and use the Precision Grass static grass applicator from Wall World Scenics, and we've got a link to them down below if you want to try and find one of these for yourself, and just try and mute this area down and bring this grass to life. I'm also going to look at this area along here, along the edge, which again has suffered for the similar reasons. Probably one of the first bits of grass that I applied to Weir Yard. It really does look a bit, well, naff now, but it is going to provide a great base to build up with static grass. Now, I want to show you what it is I'm planning, and you can see instantly that I've been playing about at the top of the hump. One thing that has struck me is I perhaps need to be a little bit more careful when it comes to the static grass and the existing ballast. This is applied straight over ballast like this, and we'll try and find an archive picture or a bit of video just to show you what this area used to look like, because it is actually quite a big transformation. I've used some of the flower dressing kit as well that we touched on in a previous video and built all this up, and actually I'm quite pleased. And if I try and get the camera down reasonably low, I think you might just be able to see that there's a good depth to that grass once the camera focuses in on it. And it really, I think it's working quite well. And the more that you use this static grass applicator, the easier it gets, and you can experiment and push the boat out. I've also done along here, you can see that I've been trying to build up the static grass, and again used some of the flower dressing kit. I've used the yellow and the light green, and I think it has worked reasonably well. And again, I want to try and replicate some of this improvement in the area at the front. Now, I've had a look through my drawer of static grass products. Well, I've got 2 drawers. This is one of them. I've had a good rummage around, and I'm going to pick out some of the materials that I'm going to use. I thought I'd start off with some of the spring 2mm grass. Thought that was a good one to do. And then I've got an assortment of olive green scatter. Also, we've got here dark green foliage, and I've also picked out a light green foliage to build up different textures. One of the other things as well I want to try doing is Warworld Scenics sent over some of this 1mm, and it is static grass, but it's for building up flowers, and I really want to experiment with this. I think by doing it at this piece along the edge of the baseboard, might actually get a really good effect from it. So I'm going to give it a whirl and see how it goes. Some of the other colours that they sent over, we've got this purple 1mm, and I've also picked out the red 1mm as well, and I'm going to see what kind of an effect I can do with that. I've also got this, it's in my stash, so I thought rather than going out and buying more stuff, I'd make the most of things that I already had. But this colour is also available from Warworld Scenics. So let's get on and prep the area, and I'll show you the tool I'm going to be using. This is the Progress Detailer from Warworld Scenics, and they were very kind to send this over, and I have been playing with it but not yet featured it in any video up until now. So I'm going to open up the box and show you what we get in here. Now, I've been using it, so excuse it being a little bit dusty. It's actually fairly compact, and at the moment I've got the slightly bigger head on the end, which is interchangeable with a smaller head that it does come with, and this takes the standard 9-volt battery screwed into here with the operating switch on the side. Just like all the other static grass applicators, we've got the earthing strap, and all I do with this is just clip it to the rails somewhere. That's all you need. You don't need to bang a nail into your scenery to get that grounding. Now, the bigger head, I tend to use this if I've got a slightly bigger area to cover. Oops, I've just managed to tip out some of the leftover stuff there, and you really don't want that, so probably have to hoover a little bit here. One of the other things I want to do is to get away from the kind of the grass going into the ballast in the track. I'm going to use some masking tape along here and just mask off the actual track bed, and hopefully that'll give us a cleaner ballast when we're done. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I've also got this very small applicator, which is immensely useful for getting into tight little tiny spaces where you don't want a lot of static grass. Of course, it only takes a small amount, so you do have to keep recharging it, but I think that's a small price to pay for getting the precision into static grass. I think I am also going to lose these trees. I call them bog brush trees. They seemed like a good idea when I put them in, but actually they sometimes some scenery you have to just draw the line and say, actually, you know what, it's just not working. So I'm going to remove them, and I'm also going to pull out these tufts because the static grass will just cover them completely, and it just seems a tremendous waste. These I'm going to leave because the static grass will hump over them to some extent, and again with this, not a lot I can do, it's glued in, but it will give a good base for the static grass to build up from. So I'm going to go ahead now and mask off the track and prep up ready to do some of that static grass application. Hopefully you can see what's going on. We're going to be using the grass layering spray from Warworld Scenics, and before we get on with that, I want to charge the bigger of the two of these applicator heads. I'm going to load it up with some of the spring 2mm grass. Now, just be very careful with this. Any big lumps in the bag, probably best to just try and break them up beforehand. And don't overload it, because it needs that space to be able to actually build up that charge. I'm also going to open up the scorched earth grass. You can mix the grass inside the static grass applicators, and sometimes actually that does work really well to give much less uniformity to what's going on in there, which I do like. So that should be enough in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit this to the head, and you can see all the stuff that's fallen out, so be careful what you put this onto. I'm just going to scoop this up, and I'm going to just put that back in the bag. Don't try and rush yourself when you're doing this, because you end up making a mess or things like that. But just going to see, some of these are loose, so I'm going to actually just take them off. Any of that loose? No, it should be alright. Just a reasonable covering. And then what I want to do now is, where's my connector there? I'm going to just connect that to the track over there for a good ground, turn it on, and then I find just tapping thus, and I can actually, in this light, you can see it building up. That is just really great, how well that builds up. And just occasionally check and make sure there is actually still grass in there. You will empty these quite quickly. That's already gone empty, but not to worry. What I'm going to do is actually going to try and load this in the bag, so anything that falls through, let me actually put it the other way around, anything that falls through doesn't end up going all over the model. So we've got plenty of the green. I'm going to just put that carefully back on. It's probably the messiest bit. I'm going to give another quick blast of this, because I want to build up the layers as well as actually getting good coverage. And again, just a little tapping. That's right. And just build up these layers, and you can see the difference it actually makes comparatively quickly. And I think just there we go. Save the battery, turn it off. What I'm going to do is, again, fix all this in place. And I'm going to actually change the heads on this. I'm going to use the smaller one, but I'm going to use that exclusively in conjunction with the scorched grass. And I'm going to just load this up over the bag. I think it's the easiest way to do this. It doesn't really take a huge amount. It's not that big. But that's okay. Put it on. And you can actually hear the grass all go, oh no, let's not stick together. And we're given different colours going on here. And yeah, we've gone through that already. So let's turn that off. Again, sometimes it's best, don't get over ambitious. If you do, you're going to probably end up with the glue going off before you actually get to it, because you're going to spend a lot of your time reloading the actual static grass applicator. Just get that back on, power it up. I'm going to give another blast. Let's do this area. How are we doing? There's still some in there. As you can see, it's really easy, but the effect that you get is just light years ahead of what we had here before. Now, I think we're about done with that. It's a bit like trying to get sauce out of a bottle, isn't it? That should hopefully have sorted that. I think, yeah, we're all used up. Now, what I want to try and do now is I'm going to go with, actually, red always works quite interestingly. So this is a new area for me. This is 1mm static grass as opposed to scatter. And what I'm going to do here, just think what's the best way. I'm going to load up the static grass head. Get this in place. Try not to tangle on there. Getting low on this from this can. I'm going to again just blast over everything. Let's see. Kind of like a red suggestion here. It's an interesting effect. Possibly too red. I think certainly. Now let's get a little bit more down here. I'm gonna. Wow, that's quite intense. I think the trick with this is less is more. Oops. No, you don't, silly thing. Look at that. Just. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over that, mute it down with some more green, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to using some of the 2mm spring grass. So I'm just going to load this up, a little bit in there, put that down out of the way. And then I'm going to just try and mute some of this red, I think. But that's the thing with the static grass. You can just build up. You don't like a colour, go over it again. I think what we have here is what happens when you put slightly too much in. If you overload it, you tend to find it just won't come out. So I'm just going to turn the fan out of the way. I don't want it to all just go yay and escape. So I'm going to just empty a little bit of that out. Put a little bit back in. Let's try the less is more approach. So just put that out of the way. Again. Yeah, that's working now. I'm going to just mute the red down. I think, yeah, there wasn't very much in there, so go back and refill with a bit more. Just build up the layers. Build it up, and that's the way to do it. And if you're not happy with the colour, just go over it again. doing? Getting there, getting there. And you can see the static grass just kind of builds up. Oops. Let's put that back. Now I want to do some scorched earth. More the glue. Let's try not to get too tangled. Go to certain areas. More. It's weird, you can see the fibres sticking on end. I love it, I really do. But you can see that the precision applicator is perfect for these tight little areas that the bigger applicators would just go through with like a bludgeon effect, like loading up a blunderbuss. Right, that's that one done. And what I want to do next, I talked at the beginning about some of these scatters. So I'm going to bring in the olive green scatter, dark green foliage, and also some of the light green foliage, and I've also got the yellow, and I think they might do quite well as suggestive of flowers. So again, what I'm going to do now is, you don't need the applicator for this, just sprinkling a little bit onto there. Just a little bit. And I'm going to go for the dark green. Again, sparing. Clusters in some places, not in others. The cluster around here, suggestion of bushes. A little bit less over here. Right, is that done? Another blast, fastening everything in place. Light green, you're up next. Again, sparing. Not too much at all. A little bit up here. Too much, doesn't matter, that works. So all we need that, and then yellow, this, it can be very overpowering, so less is more. That's going to be the watchword on this. Less is more. Just a suggestion of flowers, that's all this is, a suggestion that there's some kind of flowers going on, going, yep, we'll have some of this. We will grow in this area. Concentrate them where it looks like there's bushes, maybe. On the bushes, on the trees. And there we go. And one final pass, I think, on the precision applicator with the scorched grass, I think, and then this area is going to be done. So again, I'm going to load up the applicator with some stuff. Let's get that on. Just mute these colours. Make that one spent, so new can. New cans can be a little bit savage, so just be careful you don't blast all your work into space. Just muting. How are we doing? Is there anything left in here? Do we need to recharge? Yes, we do. As you can see, you go through because it's only tiny, you go through what's in it very, very quickly. So always check, otherwise you're just wasting battery life and time if you try static grass with an empty piece. Back on. Try not to let your cable, sometimes it tries not to let you, it can be a bit nasty like that. But how are we doing? How are we doing? Getting there, muting, different colours, mute it. Come on, mute, 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 mute. And I think we are done with that. So next step, what I actually want to do is glue some of the bushes back in. So I've just got these. I've got underbrush from Woodland Scenics Forest Blend, and I've also picked out bushes, just dark green bushes. And with this, stick in place with some Speed Bond from Deluxe Materials. And again, less is more. Let's start off initially with some of the bushes that fell off the first time. Let's not waste anything. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pick out pieces, and these, a little bit of glue, push them down into it. Again, find another piece, and let's put you in there, and another piece. And you're just building up a little bit of more textures and colours. Textures and colours are the way ahead. Let's just, you can't see this here, I'm just slightly off camera, but I'm putting some in there. And let's see where else. Let's go for up here. It's quite a big bush I've got. Squeeze that in, and then let's go with some of the underbrush. Now this, as you can see, is a much finer kind of substance. I'll put a little bit on there, and then I'm going to just find places where I can put little bits of this, squeeze them in, and it's just a bit like brambles, that kind of thing. So another piece there, squeeze it in. This glue does dry clear. A little bit more just into that glue up here. And let's get the rest of this in, and just keep doing this until you're happy. Again, quite often the mantra can be less is often more. So I'm going to have another little patch here. Dip in the jar, a little bit at a time. Push it down into the glue. And there you have it. That's all I'm going to do on that area for now. Now, having a little vacuum might be a good idea. Then I think that should be good. Let's remove the, you can see what's gone on the masking tape, and that would have otherwise contaminated our ballast. Take that out, a nice clean ballast, and that's actually worked really well. One of the things I am going to do, once I've got that off, I see there's a little patch there which doesn't quite look right. That's okay. I think that underbrush, where have you gone? A little bit of underbrush will sort you out. Just hiding what was actually a piece of bare paint. Anywhere else along there that maybe just down here, there's a little area where I think just to blend the static grass to the ballast, I'm going to just put in a little bit of a bush. Right, that is looking so much better than before. Final fixative, just to fix everything in place. And what I'm going to do next is clean the track. Quite often you can overlook this and find, why aren't my trains running? Well, it's because you've got glue on the track. So I'm just going to use the Pico track cleaning rubber and any piece of track that may have got itself exposed. Try not to knock the camera there. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a brush off. And there you have it. It's just so easy with the Warworld Scenics static grass applicators. This is the Pro Detailing Static Grass Applicator. We've got a link down below. But as you can see, it is vastly improved what was otherwise a bit of a bland, flat, boring area. Well, thanks again for joining me. It's been really great to have your company. Don't forget to tickle that like button, and really importantly, share this video as well if you found it enjoyable or informative. And if you haven't already done so, don't forget to subscribe to the channel too. Ring that bell and you'll be the first to know about new videos as and when they go up. And I'd love to hear from you as well. Put a comment down below and tell me about what you've been up to with your layout. I do read every single comment, even if I don't always have the time to answer every single one. I do read what you say and enjoy hearing from you. And also, if you've got any suggestions for things that you think that Weir Yard should have that I could perhaps look to add in the future and do a how-to video or an update video about them, do let me know in the comments down below. It's always great to hear from you. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Bye for now. Today's video is sponsored by Train-O-Matic, makers of DCC decoders designed to be fully compatible with every manufacturer's locomotive. Visit train-o-matic.com to browse the full range and see what they've got suitable for you. I'd like to send out a huge thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Michael Churchwood, Anthony Hunt, William Wade, Wayne Johns, Offshore Allen, oorail.co.uk, Tepic, Michael Lockie, Helen Sink, Peter Bolton, Brian Smith, Brian and Dorothy Mudd, Gary Lewis, David Quinn, Trish Bits, Sparky 107107, George Botterini, Andy Finch, and Chris Moss. Thank you. Without you guys, I couldn't do this.